Wake up, Black America. It's time to make a change. Dr. King had a dream. Obama promoted change. And now one man has taken the torch and set out to make a difference. He's put forth a plan to restore Black America over the next century. He's the author of the book entitled Restore Black America, a 6-step action guide for restoring the Black community over the next 100 years. He's an entrepreneur, an author, an educator, a poet, an activist. He's the founder of the Restore Black America Foundation. You've heard about the man. You've read about the myths. You've been told about the legend. Now you get a chance to come face to face with the truth. Now, here is the man himself, Rossi Eason.
What's going on, everybody? This is Rossi Eason. I'd like to welcome you to the Restore Black America podcast. Today is April 1st, 2020. This will be the first episode in the Restore Black America podcast series. So I'd like to welcome you. I'm really excited, actually, about doing this. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I know one of the things that we've been talking about lately is a lot of us during this particular time, due to what's going on with the COVID-19 incidents and some of the other dynamics, are now forced to stay home. And one of the things is we're forced to stay home in this environment. This is a great time for us to start to communicate with one another, utilizing some of these other platforms through technology, so on and so forth. I know we're at a time where they're targeting this idea of sort of promoting social distancing, but my conclusion is we don't necessarily need to practice social distancing as much as we need to practice physical distancing. However, in the process of physically distancing ourselves from one another, we do need to still socially connect with one another. So this is part of what this podcast is about. Let me just give you guys a little bit of history about myself. So for those of you who know, years ago, I authored a book called Restore Black America. And just to give you guys a little bit of background on this, many of you out there listening may have heard of something called the Willie Lynch letter. So years ago, a friend of mine actually introduced me to this thing called the Willie Lynch letter. And for those of you that don't know it, if you don't know what it is, you can go ahead and look it up. But it's essentially a transcript of a speech given at a slave owners convention. And one of the things that they talked about was how to control Black people, essentially. And the key to it is, he said that you don't do it with force. You actually do it by controlling their minds, something that they refer to as amplifying the differences. So you put light skin against dark skin, young against old, male against female, all the things that we see today. And one of the things he said is, if you do this, this will last for at least 300 years. Okay. And this is supposed to be written in 1712. Now, when I see this, I say, if this is a plan to destroy Black people, if I just reverse engineer it, could I create a plan to rebuild us? Hence the term Restore Black America. So I authored a book that outlines a 6-step action plan in the 6 areas of our community, which are culture, economics, politics, family, health, and spirituality. Each part of this book is actually an action plan based upon what we could do as a community and also what you could do as an individual. I started the Restore Black America Foundation as a way to implement the plan and provide the tools for the plan. Because one of the challenges that I've seen is that it begs the question of how do you bridge the gap between information and implementation? And the key is you do it with tools, systems, and blueprints. So that's what the Restore Black America Foundation is all about: tools, systems, and blueprints. And part of the blueprint is actually listed in the blueprint is actually listed in the Restore Black America book. But going back to the 300-year plan, he said that if you do this effect will last 300 years, possibly more, unless a phenomenon occurs. When I wrote the book, it was actually in 2013, which is the first year after that 300-year mark. And so I wrote the book to essentially be that phenomenon. So it's something that I've been working on for several years now. So those of you that know me, if you're out here in the Atlanta area, you know that from the youth camps I've done, from the entrepreneur school and classes, we were really working on getting those healthy cooking classes really going strong for everybody. We're doing a lot of stuff in the community, doing the Black Wall Street events where we offer Black businesses free vending, free business showcase, a mastermind group, all of those particular dynamics. So those are some of the things that we're doing. We're also getting ready to roll out our enrollment counselors program, where we're able to offer certain services to the community where individuals can actually be compensated for doing that. So not only can you earn some money for yourself, you could also help out the community, help raise money and awareness for a foundation. So we have a lot of great things going. Now, one thing I do want to say is I want this podcast to be very real and very raw. We're not going to be raunchy. We're not going to be vulgar, but we're going to be very real. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and give a forewarning. If I have anybody who's super religious, or if you're super sensitive about certain topics, maybe if you even have little children around or what have you, that's just, I'll leave that at your discretion. Like I said, it's not going to be anything vulgar or ridiculous, but I do want to deal with real issues, and we want to talk about real issues in a real way. And we're going to use real language, descriptive languages, and say whatever needs to be said, to get the point across. And at the end of the day, I do not want this to be politically correct, because at the end of the day, our situation isn't politically correct. Not at all. Not even one bit. So that's that. So we're going to go over a lot of different topics. I plan to really go over different topics broken down in different areas, the different areas of the plan, which again are culture, economics, politics, family, health, and spirituality. So we'll have on here, I'll have different topics on each one of these areas. Eventually, at some point, I'll definitely be bringing in some guests to get other opinions. I know my area of expertise is more so in terms of economics, in terms of the entrepreneurship. That's kind of where my passion lies. I do have knowledge in a lot of these different areas, but it's great to bring in experts who specialize in these areas. Eventually, at some point, as it continues to grow, we'll definitely open it up for phone calls, and I'd love to hear from you guys out there. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. So yeah, like I said, this will be the first episode. It's not going to be too long. There are a couple of things that I wanted to kind of touch on. I put a video out not too long ago, and one of the things that I spoke about in that video is utilizing this time wisely. So, for example, at this particular time of crisis, as we're going through the COVID-19 crisis, there's going to be a lot of shifting, a lot of changing, what have you, and change isn't always bad. Unfortunately, yes, obviously a global pandemic is not necessarily a good thing, but I do believe in the polarities of everything. So even in some bad, there's also some good. So a couple of great things about this particular time is, number one, it's actually getting rid of distractions. If you think about, for example, right now, there are no sports, there are no clubs, there are no bars. A lot of the things that we used to fill our time with, a lot of that stuff is gone by the wayside. Okay, so now we have no choice but to kind of focus on what's important. And if you ask my opinion, and I'm going to be honest, especially when it comes to Black America as a whole, I think we spend way too much time entertaining ourselves. And considering the severity of our situation, we need to spend more time educating ourselves. And not to say that you can't do one without the other, but usually we do one in place of the other. We spend way too much time trapping and rapping and twerking and perking, in my opinion. So it's good to kind of cut all that out for a bit. And now we have a little bit of time to focus. The other thing is, too, technology. This, in my opinion, what this COVID-19 crisis has done is create a technological revolution. Because before, if you think about it, technology was more of a convenience. Now it's more of a necessity. Now they're telling people, look, you can't come to work. Okay. So now some of those things we were doing strictly out of convenience, we have to do out of necessity. So this could be a good thing. So, for example, many of you are now getting the opportunity to work from home, which most of you probably prefer to do anyway. To be honest with you, I always said, even though I'm a big proponent of entrepreneurship, working from home is probably the next best thing, because it does give you some level of freedom, and you can at least have a steady salary in the process. The challenge is, though, just to be honest with you, a lot of you guys who are working from home, some of you guys are going to end up home indefinitely without the work part. Okay. What's going to happen is companies, because of all the due to the fact of the social distancing and all that, companies are going to have to rely a lot more on technology, which means they're going to be innovating on technology a lot faster, which means that they could replace the human element a lot faster and a lot easier. So again, if you're doing a job that's very repetitive, chances are you're going to be replaced, because a machine could do what you do for a lot less money, won't complain, won't ask for time off. They don't have to be liable to it, and they could essentially work it 24/7. So we're in the midst of a technological revolution. But the positive side of that is that if you're in the world of the realm of technology, you're doing pretty good right now. Even if you do have a job, most people I know that are in IT have very good jobs, and their jobs are usually very secure because IT is not going anywhere. If you're into internet security, if you're into computer coding and developing and all of these type of programs, there's a lot of opportunity for you. For those of you that are out there that are either laid off or having time at home, I would encourage you to take this time now to start to get some of those other skill sets. Learn some of those things about computer coding, what have you. Do you know right now you could actually go on YouTube, and if you go on YouTube and you type in MIT, so most of you guys know MIT, very popular, prestigious school, they literally put almost all of their classes online. They do high definition videos where they're actually videotaping all their classes, and it's literally online on YouTube. So you could go right on here on YouTube and literally sit through a college course for free. Okay, so that's the beauty of technology. Technology makes things so easily available and so accessible. So I would encourage anybody, if your job is at risk or you're in transition, now is the time that you want to utilize this time to get some additional skill sets, because you better believe my notion is when we get on the other side of this crisis, we're going to have a very different economy. Kind of similar to, if you guys remember back in September 11th, the tragedy that happened back then. Once that happened, we never really went back to normal. We never went back to sane. The way we travel was different. The way we process information was different. All the security measures changed. I feel like this is going to be another similar thing. And one of the biggest changes is going to be a change in technology. Okay. A change in technology. So that's that. So this is a great time. That being said, it's a great time to really spend your time to self-improve or to improve yourself. One of the other things that I like to mention during this particular time is that everybody is essentially home. Everybody's on social media. Everybody's on Netflix. Everybody's on everything internet based. So if you're an entrepreneur, this is a great time for you to either start that internet based business or to improve your internet based business. I know for people who are maybe already established and already have some tractions, you've probably seen a huge uptake in your business because now everybody's ordering online. I know myself, I'm doing a lot more ordering online from Amazon and a lot of other places where maybe I would have just ran out to the store real quick. So a lot of that's going on. So I think that's a really good thing. And this is also a great time to get your social media presence together if you haven't done so already. That's part of what this podcast is about. To be honest with you, it's me taking my own advice. I want to do a lot more with putting out videos and putting out video content and putting out different content for different reasons. And I really want to do a lot more to connect with the audience. So I wanted to take my own advice. And there's a lot of things that I wanted to do in terms of with the foundation to get things online and to put it in a better position. That now I'm going to be forced to do those things, which is good for me as well. So there's always some positive in anything negative. Truth be told, like I said, this is a very different time. We've seen markets go down, but we've never actually seen the entire economy just shut down. We've never seen the economy turned off. So it's not even a matter of, well, when is the economy going to turn around? It's when is the economy going to get turned on? So this is something that we've never seen before. But again, it's not anything to fear, but it is a time to be wise. Okay, it is a time to be wise. All right. So yeah, I kind of wanted to put that out there as well. There's a few things that just kind of come to mind. I've been spending a lot of time meditating over different things. And one of the things that I've been looking at, so this idea of social distancing, it's really weird. One thing I always tell people to pay attention to is buzzwords. Anytime you start to hear the media constantly promoting a certain buzzword, there is usually some sort of change that comes after that. So you'll find that the language changes, right? They put certain terminologies in place, which is usually either proceeded or succeeded by propaganda. So either the propaganda comes first, and from the propaganda, this new term that comes out of it, or they start putting out this term and then really backing it up with propaganda. Then what happens after propaganda is political correctness. Political correctness usually comes after that, usually followed by some kind of law or something that's passed. So I'm curious to know how the idea of social distancing is going to affect us culturally. Okay, culturally, I do think that this is going to be a very, a very different time. But anyway, so going back to the idea of social distancing, I wanted to really, as I mentioned, I think we should probably practice more so physical distancing, but socially connecting. One of the things that I've been thinking about lately too, since I've been thinking about this whole thing of social distancing versus socially connecting, is in general principle, one of the things that has stopped us as a community, and by a community I mean as the Black community, from connecting. A lot of times people will boil it down to mistrust, a lack of trust. That's one thing, but I think what a lot of people forget about is something called ego. Okay, something called ego. Ego really affects us in a lot of different ways. A lot of times our egos kind of get in the way of us connecting on all levels. So I give you an example. So right now on Netflix, I told you I'm watching a lot of Netflix. I'm sure like you guys have as well. There's a movie on there called The Platform. Okay, it's called The Platform, and on this particular movie, it's basically about these people who end up in jail. The jail is actually underneath a cruise ship, okay, interestingly enough. And what they do is they fill up a table full of food from the kitchen and they lower the table down. Now, each floor gets a certain amount of time to eat food off this table before the table drops down and goes to the following floor. This, obviously, it goes down like literally like hundreds of levels. So clearly there's not enough food for everybody. So the honorable thing to do will be for everybody to eat just enough food so that you could have enough for the table below you and table below you. That's not what they do. What everybody was doing was over consuming the food and getting as much as they can. And one of the things is they would do disgusting things, like they would eat the food and then spit it back on the table, or just do weird things before they would send it down to the next level. And the guy asked, well, why would you do that to somebody else's food when you wouldn't want them doing that to you? And the guy said, who cares? Because the moment they get a level above you, they're going to do it to you. These people don't care about you, so you shouldn't care about them. And I thought that was really interesting. So if you see this movie, I don't want to give away too much. It was kind of a weird movie. I don't want to give it away too much, but I felt like whoever the director was, they were trying to make the movie very indicative of how society is set up in the different classes and different levels. And the other thing I forgot to add about this is that they would stay at each level for like a week, I think, and then they would end up at a different level. So you could be on level 2 one day and be on level 45 the next day. You might be on level 10 this day and be on level 90 the next day. And obviously, like society, the further down bottom you are, the less you're going to get. So I thought it was very interesting. But the interesting point is, I said all that to say is that when people are in a certain position, they'll look to those that are in a stronger position, or those that are in a position above them, whatever, to give them a helping hand. But then when they would get on the top level, they wouldn't look to help for the people below them. And I thought that was not only indicative of society and of community, but that's very indicative of the Black community. That's the first thing that we do. When we're struggling, when we're down bottom, we wish that somebody would hook us up, right? Throw me something, help me out, whatever the case is, to try to get on your feet. The moment we get on our feet, very few of us reach back and help our own. If anything, we usually come back to brag, right or wrong. So when we need some money, we out there looking for a hand up or a handout in some cases for some people. But as soon as we get some money, what's the first thing we want to do? We want to pull up on you in our new car. We want to talk to people like, yeah, you broke ass niggas. you know how they say it. And that's just to be honest. And that's how we deal with one another. As opposed to approaching it with humility. to be able to help the next man. I mean, think about how much further we would be as a culture if we would just reach back and help one another. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, what happens is once we get a level of success, ego develops. And I'll say a level of success or a level of transformation. So what I noticed about most people is, like I said, you might be broke one day and then come into money, and then the next day everybody else is broke. If you go to church, somebody gets saved on a Monday, by Tuesday, everybody else is the devil. People go vegan on a Tuesday, by Wednesday, everybody's a meat eating carnivore. You become conscious on a Wednesday, by Thursday, everybody else is deaf, dumb, and blind, and they still asleep and they don't know the truth. Okay. All of these particular dynamics, as soon as we get ourselves together, the first thing we do is we start becoming judgmental towards everybody else as if that's not where we just were. Right. And so that really keeps us from improving because we don't want to help others in our community. But that also keeps us with working with one another, because at the end of the day, a lot of times we feel like we can't work underneath somebody, next to somebody, partner with somebody because, that's their thing. It ain't my thing, or this or that, or, a lot of these different dynamics. Or we're always trying to, run off with somebody else's ideas and this and that. All these kind of weird little dynamics that we got going. Whereas if you could understand that, hey, maybe I could learn from this person. Maybe this might be an opportunity for partnership or what have you, as opposed to always, everybody thinks that they should be the boss or they should be there. There's so much ego going on with us. That even affects us in terms of our relationships as well. Everybody has this idea, just like even in the relationship world, you always hear this, this phrase about knowing your worth, right? Knowing your worth. And I think that's obviously a good thing. Everyone should know their worth. But the problem is a lot of times people's worth is rooted in their egos. So we come to the table with everything that we should be getting from the other person. Okay. A lot of times, even in our relationships, everything's all about what we should be getting from the other person. And a lot of times, because you hear this a lot too, people say, well, I should get this and that, and I deserve this kind of person. I know my worth. And a lot of times that's not always true. Sometimes I'm like, you don't necessarily know your worth. You have an overinflated view of what you think your worth is. And to be honest with you, you're overcharging for your stock value, and you're going out into the marketplace and you're mad that nobody's buying it. Okay. That's part of the problem. And, even in our relationship, and both men and women do that. Men think that women should be this way towards them, and they haven't produced enough to even make those kind of demands. And, same thing with women. He should do this for me and do that for me. But at the end of the day, you might, need to ask yourself, what is my ideal mate? What kind of mate would that person need? And then ask yourself, am I that person? See, most of us never really do that, right? Because that will require us to do a bit of self-reflection, and then we would have to be honest. But you're able to do that once you can kill your ego. So ego is just something really big. I'm not going to touch on it too much here. I think it deserves literally an entire show, and we may need to even bring in a master psychologist or something of that nature. But it's just something that's been on my mind a lot lately. And I hope that this COVID-19 crisis actually humbles us a bit, because a lot of the things that we sought refuge in, that we use to hide behind, our egos and things of that nature, a lot of those things have gone away. I mean, think about the things we bragged about, having money and throwing money around in the club. Well, ain't no clubs open right now. We brag, people, whatever, you got a nice car, you got a nice this, or whatever it is that you got going. A lot of that is taking a back seat. There's nowhere for you to hit the scene and show off right now. Right now you need to show off with some toilet paper and show off with some bottled water. Okay. That's how you raise your status out here in these days. So yeah, that's just something that's really been on my mind, as far as that. And let me say this, there's a difference between ego and confidence. For those of you that study polarities, you know that there's what they call light and dark energies, right? So confidence is more of a light energy, whereas ego is more of a dark energy, right? Confidence is just you having you being assured enough of yourself from previous experiences that you can complete the task, or that you have what it takes to be successful at whatever you're setting out to do. That's confidence. Ego, on the other hand, is essentially an overconfidence that's not backed by anything substantial. So you think that, you should be able to do X, Y, and Z, but then you haven't done any training for it. You think that you should be the one in charge of that business, but then you didn't put any capital up. or anything of that nature. So that's really more ego. And if you really study the ego is actually a way to mask insecurities. And if you think about it, as a people, black people, we actually do have a lot of insecurities, whether we realize it or not, because that's the way society's programmed us to be insecure about a lot of things. And a lot of us don't have anything tangible to work with. So as a result, we rely on our egos to fill in the gap for what we don't have in a tangible format. That's just my psychoanalyst of the situation, me analyzing the situation from that perspective. So yeah, that's just something interesting. So at this particular time, and this is anything I'm saying to you guys, I'm talking to myself as well. We want to spend some time to self-reflect. Okay, so during this time, make sure you self-reflect and ask yourself, are you making decisions from a place of confidence, or are you making decisions from a place of ego? Check your ego at the door. So that includes in your business relationships and your personal relationships and the things that you do. Be mindful of that. We need to look at each other with humility and know that, we're all brothers and sisters out here, man, and we're all trying to make it together. So that's that. Now, something else I want to kind of talk about too. On Netflix, there is a movie, and I believe it's called Self-Made. The movie is actually about Madam C.J. Walker. Now, anybody that's followed me or been around me, you know that Madam C.J. Walker is actually one of my favorite black icons. She's actually on record as being in the Guinness Book of World Record as being the first self-made female millionaire. Not even the first black female millionaire. She's on record as being the first self-made millionaire. And I just thought that's really incredible. I mean, number one, I just have a tremendous respect for entrepreneurship as someone who runs a business, own businesses, have started businesses and all kinds of things. I know how difficult it can be to make a business successful. So that for her to achieve the level of success that she had back in the 30s. I mean, think about the climate and the culture of America at that particular time for a black person, let alone a black woman. So I just think that, she has a really incredible story, and she's just always one of my favorites. And we even still see the fruits of some of her inventions today, like the hot combs and some of these other dynamics. I mean, it's just really amazing what she's done, or what have you. So anyhow, so Netflix has this thing on Netflix about Madam C.J. Walker's life, and just want to give us some quick commentary on it. On one hand, I was glad that they did it, because like I said, she is one of my favorite icons from Black history. First and foremost, I would like to have a little bit more character development and a backstory. I would have liked to see Madam C.J. Walker maybe as a child, to show where she came from and kind of how she got to the point that she got to. It did kind of start more so at the hair business, which I would have liked a little bit more backstory on her. Now, for those of you that don't know, Madam C.J. Walker actually had a mentor by the name of Annie Malone. Now, Annie Malone was cold too. Now, here's the thing. Annie Malone's actually on record as being a millionaire. I'm not sure if maybe she made her millions after Madam C.J. Walker, or if she wasn't considered a self-made millionaire. I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but I know that she had a beauty school at that time, and to the best of my knowledge, I believe Madam C.J. Walker was a student in that actual school. They fell out at one point or whatever, and then, Madam C.J. Walker did her own thing. So they did have Annie Malone's character in here, but they did paint her as if she was this pretentious, snooty, kind of thing. Again, I don't know her personality type. I haven't read too much about it, but something tells me that wasn't the case. And true, if you look at some of the pictures of Annie Malone, she really wasn't all that light-skinned. They practiced a lot of colorism in it. What I didn't like is that they made the whole movie as Madam C.J. Walker versus Annie Malone, right? And then in the series, they got them boxing in between scenes, and I'm being honest, I thought that was kind of corny, and I didn't like the fact that they put the whole story around Annie, her beef, quote unquote, with Annie Malone, or what have you. Now, she did. They did show her husband in here as well. He seemed like he was a really hard worker. Obviously, he fell in some issues. I didn't like how they painted it. Again, I don't know what the real relationship story was, but they kind of made it like he was the reason why the things didn't kind of go to the next level. That, and then there was a scene in there where she was trying to get some approval from Was it W.E.B. Du Bois or Booker T. Washington? I can't remember, but anyway, it was basically like they didn't want to give it to her because she was a woman and everything should go to a man. And so then it became this whole thing about, it kind of made it seem like the men were the reason that were keeping her back as well. And that, I'm going to be honest, that wasn't really an issue at that time. The issue at that time was racism. Okay, extreme radical racism. I mean, we're talking America in the 1930s. Okay, so to say that their biggest issues was Andy Malone and then other black men, I'm not buying that. And that's the reason why we need to control our own narrative. I didn't like the way that they did that. They hardly made any reference to racism at all, as if that wasn't the real issue at that particular time. So, it was okay, but there was I felt like there was a hidden agenda in there. And I feel like anytime you get something that may look like it's going to uplift the community, there's always an agenda in there. And like I said, when I saw it, I was really surprised that they did Madam C.J. Walker, because I was curious to know why they brought that up at this time. And I'm curious to know what's going on with that. I mean, they're bringing up Madam C.J. Walker. They did the assassination of Malcolm X. They're bringing up a lot of these things. But even in all of these things, you can always see these little agendas, and they're always trying to put us against each other. So just be real careful. Watch for the hook, as we used to say, So I just thought that was real interesting. So yeah, go check it out. It's on Netflix. It's called Self-Made. I personally would like to see that being redone. One thing before this was actually put out, if you ask anybody, I would always say that one of my first things I want to do is do the documentaries. We're working on the Restore Black America documentary right now as we speak. Shout out to Raphael Bay. That's my videographer, Raphael Bay Productions. If you ever come across him, he does phenomenal work. But he and I are working on shooting a documentary right now. But I always was asked, people asked, well, would you ever be interested in doing movies? And I said yes. And one movie that I always wanted to do was a biopic on Madam C.J. Walker. So I was really at first delighted that somebody actually did it, but I thought it was distasteful. So you know what, Hollywood, I may still do that. And if we do, we're going to end up telling the story the right way. So that's that, man. So anyway, this is, episode number 1. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and close out. This is just an introductory episode. We're going to go over a lot of exciting things. We're going to get some good information out there for you guys. Like I said, I would like to do it on an array of different topics. Some of them will be current events. Some of them would just be issues going on in our community. Some of them would just be, breaking down issues in different areas. Like I said, we'll have some guests. We'll have a lot of good things going on. But one thing I wanted to leave you guys with is I want this to be about solutions, not just problems. I don't know about you guys, but I've gone to certain black empowerment seminars or this or that, and then you end up leaving there feeling worse about our situation than when you came in, because it's all about they doing this to us and they doing that to us and we not allowed to do this and this and that. And then you leave there and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do with all that? You understand me? So me personally, I prefer to promote solutions, and I think that this needs to be a joyous time. We need to be really excited about making the improvements necessary so we can have fun as we continue to improve our situation. So that's something that I would like to do. I mean, I try to tell everyone, I live by 3 simple principles: have fun, make money, make a difference, And if you keep life simple like that, you'll go far and you'll be stress free. So with that being said, like I said, I don't want this to be dark and everything going on in our community and they're killing us out here, that kind of stuff. A lot of these things we already know. Now it's a matter of what do we put in place to help us move forward. So this is definitely going to be about solutions. We will identify certain problems just so we could be clear on it. And then we're definitely going to outline some solutions. So also, I want to hear from you guys. I'll be posting all of this content, on the YouTube page as well as other audio platforms. So look out for us on iTunes and even SoundCloud and different platforms. But please feel free to leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts, your concerns. Let me know what topics that you guys would like to hear, issues that you're dealing with. I'm really ready to do this, ready to get this going. So looking forward to talking with everybody, looking forward to putting out more content, more podcasts. You'll definitely be hearing more from me and the Restore Black America Foundation. So once again, my name is Rossi Eason, author of the Restore Black America book. So please pick that up on Amazon. You could get it in the physical or digital copy. As a matter of fact, the second edition is out now with certain updates in it. So you want to be sure of that. Also, check out the restoreblackamerica.org website. It's actually a full service social media site. So you can go, you can add your picture, you can join groups, you can start your own groups, you can add friends, you can leave comments. This is a way for us to, once again, socially connect with one another. To really make this a nationwide platform. So no matter where you go in the country, you have opportunity, you have access to other individuals, other like-minded, prosperous individuals who are moving in the same direction. So that's something else that we'll be talking about as well. So once again, guys, I'm Rossi Easton. I'm your host, author of the Restore Black America book, founder of the Restore Black America Foundation. I am signing off on April 1st, 2020, and this is podcast number 1.